Hey guys, John Watts here from the TruGolf Academy. Today's video is all going to be about the wrist action in your downswing. If you struggle with high, weak right shots for a right-handed golfer, I have got for you the absolute fix talking about your wrist angles, and we are going to use a bit of technology and I'll come back to that. So our focus point is going to be the start of the downswing and how our wrists influence this, the club face. So club face is key. If we want to hit a straight ball flight effectively, we need that club pointing pretty much at our target by the time we hit the golf ball. Controlling the club face is therefore the most critical part about golf, and the wrists have the biggest influence on that. So I'm going to share with you a couple of brilliant exercises, and we are going to have some data. So I'm using here the Hack Motion device. This is their latest wrist sensor. This one is fantastic. You will hear in a minute, not only will I get some some audio feedback, I've also got some visual because I've got the numbers, and I will get a vibration here as well, whether I'm in range or not. And the focus point here is all going to be about the wrists in the downswing. Now, quickly on this one, they do 3 different sensor models. This is the Pro, this is the top level, but they do start at about $250. So quite affordable, great, an amazing bit of kit, the best I've ever come across. If you use the code, it's just coming across the screen here, TGA, you will get a 5% discount, standing for TruGolf Academy. So TGA for a 5% discount. So what we're talking about here is the wrist angles here in the downswing and how that affects the club face. What most people do wrong is as they start the downswing, they start pulling the handle down. That gets the club shaft steep, that gets the hands in. Ultimately, it gets this wrist in, we call it a very cut position. The official term there would be the wrist is an extension, and we would like it a lot flatter, or maybe actually even in flexion. There's not many good players making this movement in the downswing because it takes quite a lot of timing here, impact to square that club face. And this part of the golf swing is happening within quarter of a second, right? So we haven't got a lot of time to correct at impact. We want to make that movement happen a little earlier. And effectively what we're trying to do is just keep that lead wrist very flat. For the feeling with most golfers, they're even going to feel like their fingertips start to point behind them. And that gets me on to the first drill. I would actually do it. I want you to imagine your fingertips or your hands here are almost windscreen wipers. And in the downswing, I want them to wipe this way. I want them both to move in the same direction. So I'm going to get you to have your hands a few inches apart, but at the start of the downswing, I want you to feel like your fingertips actually move to the wall behind you. So if I set up here and get to the top, I'm just going to try and move my fingertips to point towards the wall. And what that's really going to help me do at the start of the downswing is make sure this lead wrist stays very flat, very neutral. If anything, feeling this way. Most golfers, they need to exaggerate those motions. So I'd much prefer them to go this way than that way at the start of the downswing that we see so commonly. So that exercise works well. Second from that, I would actually grab just a coat hanger. Now there is a training aid out there where you can hit balls with a hanger effectively on the golf club. But this everybody will have just at home, very simply. It just needs to have that bottom rung that you would hang your trousers off effectively. And you're going to hold it near the hooky bit, okay? So the bit that would actually be hooking into your wardrobe. Now, I would normally look to start with this in the middle of my forearms, but the closer it starts to my trail forearm, my right forearm, the more I've got to exaggerate motion. And again, this is good for most golfers. So I'm actually going to start with it slightly closer to my right forearm. And what I'm trying to do here at the top of the golf swing is make sure that this, that I'd hang my trousers off, is pressing into my forearm. So really digging in as much as I can as I start that downswing, because that's that same move. My fingertips are having to go this way. I can't even put that onto a golf club. It's a little awkward, but you could even tape it to the side of the club just to do some at-home practice with. So again, is awkward to hold for sure. But if I set up, I'm making it look very awkward, if I set up with something like this, so I've got this much closer to my right forearm, now it's going to be really tough. in the downswing to keep it pressed in there. Now, what do you see from down line when I get this movement? Not only have I got my wrist bent back, but look what this club shaft's doing. It's dropping and it's falling just a little bit this way. We call that shallowing in the downswing movement. So this is a great way of actually generating more speed through impact. If you're someone who's steep, who's over the top, struggling with fades and slices, again, a real great feel for you to get. The club actually wants to move. If you think where the weight is in this club, most of it at the head end, what's it want to do at the top of the golf swing? It wants to fall in this direction. Why don't golfers get that? Because they apply a lot of force, a lot of pressure onto the handle, pulling the handle down and steepening the club shaft. The issue is it's really causing that cupped wrist. So on the last shot I hit, I had, and I'll show you these numbers a little bit closer in a second, but I'm going to set myself a range at the minute. At the top of my golf swing, my wrist was this way by 16 degrees. That's pretty good. It wasn't too flexed. Too extended, too cupped. Actually, this is great for me. At impact, I was -6, so my wrist was this way at impact. Normally, I get probably the opposite and start to get my finger tips almost moving too far forwards, my knuckles starting to align or move in front of the wrist and actually add a little bit of loft there. So that was really good for me. I was at -6. Most golfers struggling here at impact, they're into a plus number. So they wouldn't be a minus, they would be a plus. They would have their wrist in extension or cupped. And they'd be adding on a lot of loft and struggling with some shots that go out to the right. So I'm going to set this, I'm going to set myself a range and you'll hear why. So at the minute, my wrist, my lead wrist is in a cupped position and I'm getting red and you can't hear anything. If I move within range, green, singing angels, and I know you can't feel this, but it is vibrating to tell me I am in range. So it's a great way for me to work on this movement. Now I'll turn that down because it might be a little annoying. Can I keep it vibrating, keep the angels singing on the downswing, that I'm not moving this way? Cupped wrist, red, no vibrations, no singing angels. Get it in position and I know what I'm doing. So if you don't know what numbers you're looking for, there's a great tool on here where it can hit some shots and then it tells you what range you should be looking for. I've done this setting up the numbers myself. So with a little bit more idea and knowing what I'm working on, I've set myself a target range and I've allowed myself to go from +10 to about -30. So I've got a window there where I'm trying to keep my lead wrist in. So that's the feel. Now you'll have heard, I got it and I lost it. It wasn't my best strike. I was really focusing on this. Now, I was pretty good at impact, to be fair, which is the moment of truth. So I was -13. I was definitely within range at impact. I almost didn't get it early enough in the backswing, but ultimately, as long as I'm good by the time I come to impact, great. Let me hit one more doing that. It's frustrating. Actually, again, I was green, I was good at impact, but I was quite late to get there. So I'm getting that, but you can see, it's a struggle. It's not easy to try and do it when the golf ball's in the way. So maybe you'd start with some little stop, down to here, and hit. And then you'd build it up, stop at the top, downswing in one motion. But we're really working on our wrist going this way. And again, the reason behind that is to mean that we don't need to use our hands quite as much at impact. Now, when I say that, a lot of golfers get the wrong end of the stick. What I'm talking about is not needing a lot of this. Okay, so I'm not having to roll my wrists and not having to flick my wrists as much through impact. So where do we generate hand speed? We generate hand speed that way. So we are down cocking our wrists. I'm just going to turn that down a second. So the down cocking the wrists is where our power is going to be. So we're actually keeping that lag angle, if you like, and we're letting that go at impact. So hand speed for the majority of elite golfers is here at the right point of the golf swing. It's not here. So I'm not suggesting the hands don't have a part to play in generating speed and power. They absolutely do. But it's more the wrist going from this way to this way. So down cocking the wrist, or the wrist in more technical terms going from radial to ulnar deviation. So we need that movement in the golf swing, absolutely. I just don't want a whole lot of this movement where we're having to manipulate our hands through impact. And that's where this works so well. So even though I've turned it down, I'm still getting the vibrations here telling me I'm within range. So it's a great bit of kit, really good bit of kit. And again, to get your hands on it, don't pay full price. Do use the code TGA at the checkout and you'll get your 5% discount. But it's an amazing bit of kit. The app is fantastic. Probably the best training bit of kit I think out there. So now, having done those drills, having done those exercises, fingertips back, that helps me close that club face a little earlier. Where am I using hand speed? Here at impact by down cocking the wrists. A lot of golfers are losing those angles very early, aren't they? So let's give it a go. I'm just going to get that sense for me of almost allowing the club to drop at the start of the downswing, being a little bit more patient. That was it. That was it. I love that as a feel. For me, if I'm trying to work on this movement with my wrist at the start of the downswing, a key feel for me is almost I just wait for the club and I feel like the club just drops. Remember, it wants to fall that way. It's you applying too much force on the end of the handle that stops it happening. So give it a go. Those two exercises, the coat hanger, the wall drill. Don't forget about using Hack Motion, an amazing bit of kit. There will be a link below in the comments box, so check that out. Use the discount code, make sure you get your hands on the best training bit of kit I've ever seen. And hit the thumbs up, leave some comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content just like this.